More on that is California Congressman, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Leader McCarthy, it's good to see you.
Thank you. The first time on the news set. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. And you sent 2 letters to Speaker Pelosi last week calling for customary rules and procedures to be established for the impeachment inquiry. I want you to talk about that a bit, because I know that having an inquiry in the Intel Committee is different than having it in the Judiciary Committee. Can you explain?
Well, first of all, let's think about all the past Congress in modern history. Before they go to any impeachment, they have an impeachment inquiry. Why? Because it's such an important fact. You're asking to remove which democratically someone was just elected. So you should not take this lightly. And everybody in America lends their voice to 435 people. So everybody should have a voice. And it sets the rules. So with Clinton, with Nixon, with the judges, a fair process. Right now, the minority does not have the right to subpoena power. The president's counsel can't be in the room. They moved it from the jurisdiction of having it from judiciary to Intel. So now they have a hearing. You know who gets to control, who gets to come in the room? The Democrats. They tell us how many Republicans are allowed in, how much staff is allowed in. They don't allow us to set witnesses.
So they want to impeach a duly elected president behind closed doors.
Exactly. And if you would release the transcripts of the hearings of last week, I think American public would again say, in this facade, this is all about politics. No, what happens is they release just 1 or 2 texts, something that makes them look good, instead of letting all the facts be. Nowhere in America would somebody go to a trial without able to have a witness, without able to cross-examine, without being able to have any fairness, and that is what Nancy Pelosi is doing. She's going against what Speaker Albert did and what Speaker Newt Gingrich did. Unheard of in this process. And it goes to the fact that this is all political.
So we saw that this last week, because Atkinson was in a hearing behind closed doors. Kurt Volker was in a hearing behind closed doors. And these hearings, you know, little things leak out, I guess. And I'm hearing that the testimony basically put this whole impeachment, you know, idea, it just busted it because of what Kurt Volker said.
Exactly.
But we don't know, because it was closed doors.
But very clear when you talk to the members who are in there, they were very clear about no quid pro quo. I mean, stated it, the fact, all of them, and it went for 9 hours. But what we found about the IG, I think is very important. Here we go, another common denominator, Adam Schiff, the man who started out telling us he had proof beyond circumstantial and put America through 2 years of nightmare.
It was in plain sight. It was in plain sight.
He met with his staff met with this whistleblower. The whistleblower then goes to the IG, the Inspector General, never mentions that he met with Schiff's staff. They are now fact witnesses. If we had subpoena power, we'd call their staff and Adam Schiff as one of the witnesses. Right. What did you talk about? What was said? How many times did you speak? They cannot be a prosecutor. Right. There's nowhere in American judiciary that allows an individual that is a fact witness to become the prosecutor.
So do you believe the president will be pushed out of office?
No, because, and I read about this second whistleblower. You and I have more knowledge than the first whistleblower. America, the world.
Well, we have the transcript.
Exactly. So what more come out? There's nothing in that phone call that's impeachable or that he did wrong. Every day we work with other countries to solve cases. Yeah. There is an open case about what happened with this Russia coup that they wanted to try to do in America. The Attorney General has an open case about it. The world knows about it. A lot of that started in Ukraine, and they're trying to find the information about it.
And that's why I think this is really what this is about. The Democrats are going to do anything they can to stop William Barr and John Durham from you know, uncovering what took place in 2016.
You know, William Barr, I respect the man greatly. He believes in the rule of law, and he's going to follow it. Unfortunately, the Democrats in Congress do not believe in the rule of law. They are trying to discredit democracy. Think about what they're doing. They're going to tear the fabric of America apart, remove a president with no basis. If the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, had waited 48 hours and had that transcript, we would not be in this nightmare we are today.
What are you going to do about this, though? I mean, you're the leader of the Republicans. You're trying to get work done. You got USMCA hanging in the balance. Exactly. You got a meeting with China on Thursday, trying to do a deal there. You've got immigration, gun legislation, all this. Nothing gets done?
The Democrats have the majority, so they could control what comes forward. What they really should be doing, USMCA, United States, Mexico, and Canada. Mexico already ratified it. Canada's waiting on us. We've got a meeting with China coming up. Yeah. A month and a half ago, Mexico became our #1 trader and Canada became #2. we would be stronger in our negotiations with China. But they are more concerned about tearing the president down than building America up.
So let's talk China for a second, because there is real basketball backlash going on this morning. The Houston Rockets general manager, he's under pressure because he put out a tweet supporting the Hong Kong protesters. It's caused a major uproar in China, where the Rockets are extremely popular, by the way. They want that market access. Chinese sponsors, Chinese businesses, all pulling support from the Rockets. An NBA spokesperson responded this way: the values of the league support individuals educating themselves and sharing their views of matters important to them. We have great respect for the history and culture of China and hope that sports and the NBA can be used for a unifying force to bridge cultural divide. But they rolled over. They rolled over. They basically removed the tweet, and now they're saying, okay, you know, we didn't mean it, because the Chinese government is on the Rockets to stop supporting the protesters.
I have one question for them. Do they stand for freedom, or do they stand for money? America's more than a country. America's an idea. Just like in the 80s when the shipyard workers rose up in Poland because they believed in freedom, you've got a large percentage of people standing up in Hong Kong every Saturday, peacefully protesting for the idea of freedom of speech. This is a defining moment. The Houston Rocket GM should be celebrated because he understands what America means. He understands what freedom means. And if these people will fold to China in an idea that they just want to have a bigger market share, that is concerning to me of what the world will look like in the future.
You know, it's a bigger issue for corporate America, right? Because CEOs for a long time just wanted the access. They want to be able to sell their goods to 1.4 billion people. But in the process, they forgot about protecting the product.
Did they forget Tiananmen Square? Why wouldn't you stand with the man who stood in front of the tank? What about how this country was created? Does that mean at the end of the day they will fold over for the freedom and rights of what it means to be an American just because they want to earn $1?
What should we be thinking about that whole military parade that we saw in China the other day? I mean, you know, you talk about national security, I know, not publicly, but you are, you know, understanding the issues with regard to China and its risk to American and our national security. So last week they've got this military parade celebrating, you know, 70 years of communist rule with a missile that has the range to hit the United States.
Hypersonics, because in the Obama administration, he cut our funding when it came to hypersonics. This is what's so important of why, because we have impeachment, we don't have USMCA. This president is trying to rebuild this military, but we don't have the appropriation bills done. Why? Because Congress can't do their work and move forward. We need to make that investment, make us safer, because China just celebrated 70 years. In 2049, when they're at 100 years, they believe there's one world power. That was a clear message to us. And wouldn't we be stronger in our negotiations with China when it comes to trade if we had the USMCA done before President Trump has to sit down with Xi Jinping? But you're making us weaker in this whole basis. They're making every president in the future weaker by having to show a transcript of a conversation he had with another world leader. The Democrats are just focused on politics instead of focused on this country.
Yeah. But what about that? I mean, are we going to now want to see every conversation that the president has with another foreign leader?
We should not want to see another. Because what foreign leader is going to be honest? You can't say anything.
Yeah.
Could you talk to your friend if everything you say is going to be in public transcript?
Yeah.
You want to be able to have that trust. And right now, the Democrats have put America into an untrustworthy place because they want to discredit democracy. They want to remove somebody from office simply from the fact that they did not like the outcome of the 2016 election.
Meanwhile, the president had a huge money raise, $125 million last quarter. How are you feeling going into 2020? Can the House reclaim the majority in 2020?
Yes, we can. I want all your viewers to know this. It takes 19 seats to put the Republicans into the majority, but there are 31 seats that Democrats currently sit in that President Trump carried. 13 of those are ruby red. He carried by more than 6 points. Then you got another 18. And then we're into seats that he didn't even win that we're able to play in today.
All right. We will leave it there. Congressman, we'll be watching.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Congressman.